Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into the HearSports Podcast Show. I'm Kyle Newman, your host.
And I'm Rad Hensley, your co-host.
On this show, anything sports goes, whether professional, college, or even high school. Debate is highly likely, laughter is always encouraged, good times is a given, and hashtag great sports talk will be a reoccurring theme. Today we will talk about the 115th U.S. Open Championship, next season in the NBA, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the top 10 NBA draft predictions. Rhett Hensley, how are you doing today? Fifth HearSports Podcast Show. We're over a month into it. How you doing, bud?
Well, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Always great when we have our weekly podcast shows and we get to talk sports for an hour.
Exactly. I love it.
I love it, too. How's the weather in Bloomington?
It's not great. It's not great, that's for sure.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I'd like to get out and golf.
No kidding. That kind of blends a little bit with our first segment because I want to get out and golf, too.
No kidding.
And after seeing this 115th U.S. Open, I really want to get out and golf. Let's talk about it. How about the man who is 3 weeks older than me, Jordan Spieth, took the crown at the U.S. Open this past weekend at University Place, Chambers Bay, Washington State, 5 under. It came down to the wire, Rhett, for this 115th Open Championship, and he took it. I was impressed.
I was too.
He is now completed winning the first 2 majors of this season. Can he, and I'll ask you this question here, I'll save this question for just in a few minutes for you, but let's talk a little bit about how it went. Jordan Spieth really finished where he started all weekend. During the week, he had a great round. He opened with a 68. Second round Friday, 67. Round 3, you thought, oh, maybe he's dropping a few strokes, a little back, 71. But then round 4, Sunday, yesterday, just dominated. Shot a 69. He was consistent. That's the word I'm going to put on Jordan Spieth's game. He is a consistent 21-year-old who is quickly becoming the next Tiger Woods. Quite frankly, I see it in him, just like I see it in Rory McIlroy. There's no doubt about it, Rhett. The torch has been passed down to these young guys, but Jordan Spieth, let's face it. I mean, the man is calm under pressure, and you thought that maybe he was going to blow it. Coming down to the last 2 holes on 17, he double bogeyed. Yeah, he missed. He had an opportunity. He had a long par putt, but he didn't lag it very well, and he missed his bogey putt. So you thought, okay, wow. Going into the 18th now, he just dropped and tied Dustin Johnson at 4 under because Johnson, who was consistent all weekend too, had birdied the 17th, and now we're both tied at 14 going into the last hole. Jordan Spieth plays it beautifully and lags a nice eagle putt to essentially tap in a birdie, and it came down to Justin Johnson. How can he do on the 18th hole? Well, let's say he just smacked probably a 340-yard drive right in the fairway. Second shot, puts it 12 feet from the hole red. He had an eagle putt to win, but he didn't. He missed his eagle putt, and he didn't just miss it. He left himself with a good 6 feet for birdie. Now he had to make this to tie it and force a playoff the next day, today, and he blew it. He pushed it, Rhett, and he ended up settling for par, and Jordan Spieth wins.
I feel like Jordan Spieth got very lucky there. He got very lucky because that could have went off to a playoff, no doubt, or heck, he could have even lost. But those greens, tell you what, they are fast and they are unpredictable.
They are fast. Well, here's the thing. That was a big topic. A lot of fans were wondering, this isn't a U.S. Open type of a course. Why, in the U.S. we're used to seeing beautiful, lush, green courses and palm trees and you're used to seeing just beautiful plush roughs and sand traps and water, and you just didn't see it on. This was a links course, and that's what a lot of people didn't realize. I mean, this course was not green, but it wasn't supposed to be. Links courses traditionally aren't. They're usually brown. They're usually fast. They're usually on the coast of water, which makes them link courses. And that's what this was. Yeah, the fairways literally blended with the greens, but it was beyond that. I think what else players didn't like about it, and a lot of former players and fans were complaining about the holes, the designs, the length of some of the holes. I mean, the 18th on Saturday was playing. It was a par 4 playing 530 yards. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, that's challenging, especially on a course like this, where a lot of players are 3-putting. I mean, that's how difficult these greens are, which was another big complaint. The slope on these greens ranged from 6% to 22%. I don't even know how to put 22% slope into perspective, but if you've ever been to San Francisco, the streets at San Francisco are like 10 and 11% incline, and they're almost straight up and down. I mean, it's insane. 22%. I mean, how can you read a green like that?
You know what? But it was fun watching that type of play.
It's challenging, yes.
Yeah, and it's better. I think it's better than going out and seeing them shoot 15 under or whatnot. And I'd rather see a tough, difficult course. And coming down to the end like that, oh my goodness. We were both jumping off our seats.
We were, because it literally, Dustin Johnson, he blew it. He was right there. I mean, he had a great tournament. Shot a 65 on the opening day, then a 71, and then 2 70s to finish it out. So the thing with Dustin Johnson, I got a stat. He's played in the final group at a major championship 4 times in his career, and he's never won. It's kind of like Ricky Fowler. I've said it all along. Until I see them break through, I will not pick him to win a major tournament because, let's face it, he choked. He had a chance to win this tournament, and he blew it. He blew a birdie putt that a professional should never miss, especially considering the circumstances, and that's really what it came down to. He blew it, and until he can get over the hump, I think he's going to continue to blow it. He played a great, four rounds of golf, but it wasn't good enough. And that's what's impressive, right, about Jordan Spieth. He doesn't crack. He had that one mishap on 17 where you thought, oh my, is he going to choke? But then he didn't. He rebounded beautifully on the par 5 18th. And that's the type of player he is. He's poised. I know you respect a poised golfer like that, a young gun, don't you?
Exactly. I think of Rory McIlroy that is like that, and he just can't be fazed in that type of situation. Which he had an outstanding round. On the last day, but he just could not find it.
Exactly. You mentioned Rory, which it is worth mentioning. Jordan Spieth winning this tournament is now the new world number 1, surpassing Rory McIlroy. Well deserved. But Rory,
how incredible! It
is. And I'm going to go through. I'm going to mention the top 10, and then we'll talk about Rory. Jordan Spieth at 1. How about this guy, Louis Oosthuizen, tied for second, and that's what's even worse for Dustin Johnson. He didn't even come in. He tied for second, missing that birdie putt. To do that, which affects his purse a little bit, which it's still good enough, but I'm sure he's still kicking himself about that today because it is a big difference. I'd like to get a number of what tied for second ends up being. Let's mention Jordan Spieth winning gets $10 million, so nice purse there. But Louis Oosthuizen finished 4 under, tied for second. He had an incredible round. Listen to this: on the first day, he shot 7 over, a 77, and then he went on to just kill it. Second round, 66. Saturday, 66. Sunday, 67, and shot a 29 on the back 9 with 6 birdies. That's pretty clutch if you ask me. impressive for Louis Oosthuizen, Rhett, to make a push like that.
Exactly.
And he's kind of been he's kind of fell off the radar in the PGA Tour world. After he won the Masters a few years ago, he just hasn't been there. But he proved his game's still there today. How about Adam Scott? Tied for fourth, 3 under. He had a solid tournament here. After the first 3 days, you thought he might be out of it. Shot a 70 on day 1, 71 day 2, 72 day 3. It was going in the wrong direction. But then how about a 64 on Sunday to finish at 3 under? Adam Scott hung around there. I know you like Adam Scott.
Yeah, he's a good one.
He did a good job. Cameron Smith finished tied for 4th. Brandon Grace tied for 4th at 3 under. He kind of fell off. He was right there in the lead for a while, and he kind of blew it. He finished with a 71 yesterday, so he kind of blew that there. Charles Schwartzel, 2 under. Haven't heard his name in a while.
Schwartzel.
That's right. He finished in 7th. Brandon Snedeker. Haven't heard his name on the top 10 in a while. Brandon Snedeker finished at 1 under. Rory McIlroy at even, tied for 9th. Shane Lowry tied for 9th, and Jason Day tied for 9th at even. Let's talk about Rory. Rhett, on the opening day, shot a 72. Friday, 72. Saturday, 70, but then Sunday, 68 to finish. Sunday, he finished with a 66 to finish at 4 under on the day, even on the tournament. I was impressed, Rhett, because he made a push. He hung around. He didn't go away. But what killed Rory is his putting. He was not making enough of his putts, and he had a lot of good putts throughout the weekend and certainly started the week. But he could not finish them, and that's the problem with Rory's game right now, I see, is inconsistency with his short game. If his long game's on, he's not finishing the short game. If his short game's on, he's not hitting the fairways. What do you think, Rory McIlroy, your boy?
Yeah, I think he has been struggling. From the start of the year, he has not played great. And, I think that's all come down to his putting game, which that can be a very tricky thing, especially when you're playing at Chambers Bay. That's another tricky course. And like you said, little San Francisco, nice steep hill that you got to walk up, and that's basically how it was out there.
It really was. It really was. And then let's mention Jason Day real quick. He was fighting all along, and I'm impressed with him because he had a scary event happen to him on Saturday, collapsed on the course, Rhett. And was able to play the next day not feeling great. He was diagnosed with vertigo, and he ended up playing and finished this golf tournament and played well. Now, on Sunday, he blew a shot of 74, so that killed him out, and it brought him out of the contention. But still very impressive considering the circumstances. So kudos for Jason Day, and we're glad that he's doing better.
Didn't drop out. He stuck with it.
He did. But Rhett, the rest of the big name guys were all over par. That's how difficult of a course this was. Sergio, 3 over. Cooch, 1 over. Duffner, 3 over. Keegan Bradley, 5 over. Jim Furyk, 7 over. Lee Westwood, 9 over. Poulter, 11 over. Phil Mickelson, 13 over.
Total Phil Mickelson move, by the way.
What do you mean by Phil Mickelson total move?
He's so inconsistent. I'll tell you what, he's up and down. I'm going to steal this from you, Kyle. He's like a Christmas tree. He goes up and he goes down.
He goes up and then down. Okay.
Yes.
Well, he did it, and I will say he was one of my favorites going into him. I love me some Phil, but he did. He was. I mean, after he opened with a 69 on the first day and in contention, he then went 74, 77, 73 to finish at plus 13. that kind of has defined Phil Mickelson's career. I'm surprised because this is the type of course that Phil's usually solid at, a links type of course. But you know what? He also has never won the U.S. Open, the only tournament that's prevented him from a Grand Slam. Finished second 6 times at the U.S. Open, and well, he lost another one. And as the great old Happy Gilmore reference would say, better luck next year. I mean, pretty much that. Yeah, exactly. That's Phil Mickelson, though. I mean, you're right. I expect him to play better at the British Open at St. Andrews. We'll talk about that on next week's show as it gets closer and we preview that. But yeah, he did struggle, and that was another day for him of struggles. It's just amazing to me, these guys that finish so much over par. Bubba Watson missed the cut. Tiger Woods, don't even get me started on Tiger Woods. Didn't just miss the cut, he shot 16 over. Tiger Woods, Rhett, he's done, isn't he?
He is. It's sad.
It's sad to see.
I know. I would love to see him win another one, but in hindsight, it more than likely will not happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's given us no indication that it will be the other way around. I mean, let's face it. He's going in the wrong direction. I can't remember a tournament where he's been under par. After the weekend of making a cut. I haven't seen it. He's lost his game.
Especially when he came out and said that he's actually going to try and win instead of just compete.
Yeah, exactly. Not the Tiger Woods we're used to saying something like that. Probably should not say anything like that.
What a bozo.
Yeah, making it a little bit worse for his case, but it's true. The man's lost his game. I don't know if he will ever win one again. I had to change my prediction based on what I've seen. Two majors left this year. You have to wonder if he's even going to be making cuts in the two majors going forward here. I mean, it's been that bad. He can't hit a fairway. That's his issue. He's not hitting the fairways, and after that, he gets it up, and his short game's struggling, and he's not making his putts. I mean, he truly needs to work on his game all around. It's mental with him. It's not age. It's not physical. I mean, he's healthy. He's not mentally healthy, and that's what's affecting his game right now. And it's not good for the golf world because people want to see Tiger Woods out there and competing, and he's just not doing it. But let's face it, these new young guns have taken over.
Exactly.
And it showed here at this U.S. Open, and
we're gonna have a Tiger Woods of our generation. It's kind of crazy thinking that somebody our age, 21, I'm a little younger, but your age, competing at this type of level and winning.
It's crazy.
It's incredible.
It
just makes you feel like, oh crap, my golf game sucks.
Yeah, I guess it does put it into perspective, but I will say that I agree with you because he has taken the torch, taking over these young guns are, and it's impressive to see. I respect it, and I think it's great for the game. It's very similar to Tiger Woods in his day, and Red, that leads me to the last question here before we get on to this next segment. Do you think Jordan Spieth will continue his pursuit for a Grand Slam this year and take the British Open, which is in just 3 weeks?
I think he could. Boy, if I was in Vegas, I'd be putting some money on it. But yeah, I think he could. He's at the top of his game. He's number 1 in the world right now. He's on that adrenaline rush. What can I say?
He is. Well, just like McIlroy was last year.
I know.
I mean, when McIlroy was on top, he couldn't lose. I mean,
know.
He was hot, and I see that in Jordan Spieth. It's just impressive. I'm going to agree with you that he will continue his pursuit for it, meaning he will be in contention. I am not. However, I will not pick him to win it.
I know who you want.
I'm sure you do. It's not just one. I'd love to see. It would be great to see, but he isn't my favorite golfer or my second favorite. I'd put him in the top 5 probably. But like I said, we'll talk about that on the next show and the next previous shows. But it is only a few weeks away, and certainly I think he will continue his pursuit of it, because you'd have to think so with all the momentum he has right now at world number 1. He's just a consistent player, plain and simple. So,
exactly.
Jordan Spieth, 115th U.S. Open champion. What a tournament! What a tournament! All right, Rhett, let's transition into this next segment here. This will be a great one. NBA season's over with now, so what are we going to do? We're going to talk about the NBA season coming up next year. And, it comes up quicker than you expect, but this is a great time of the year. And it's fun because we get to talk predictions, we get to talk off-season moves with free agents, the draft that's coming up. It's going to be exciting, Rhett. Let's get into it. I want to mention one thing, and yes, it will be mentioned on our Pacers show too, but we're going to start with our Indiana Pacers. Rhett, they're listed at 33-1 odds to win the NBA title next season. Not bad. That's good enough for top 10. And I want to see what you think about that. But before you comment on that, I want to go through who's ahead of them in the top 10. At number 1, Cleveland opens with the best odds to win the title at 3-1. Golden State at number 2, 5-1. The Thunder at 3, 7-1. The Bulls at 4, 10-1. The Clippers at 5, 10-1. The Spurs at 6, 10-1. The Rockets at 7, 18-1. The Hawks at 8, 25-1. The Grizzlies at 9, 25-1. And then the Mavericks and Pacers at 10 and 11 tied, 33-1 odds, along with the Miami Heat, Rhett, 33-1 odds, and the Pelicans at 33-1.
Wow.
So I'll ask you first, what do you think about our Indiana Pacers in the top 10 for 33-1 odds to win the title next year?
It's going to sound shocking, but I don't think that's even in the storybooks for that. I think that they should be a little farther back than that. There's going to be some great competition next year, and it's all underlying on that one big factor that I think that we all know, and that's Roy Hibbert. I feel like that's going to be the underlying situation for this team next year.
I think there's 2. It's Roy Hibbert and it's Paul George. How is Paul George looking? But I got to tell you, Rhett, I think this is the right odds when you think about the circumstances. These odds put the Pacers where you predicted them if Paul George comes back in healthy looking like the old Paul George. This would put them about the 4 or 5 slot in the East, which is what you predicted. And it's also right because we both believe Paul George will be back, and he gives the Pacers that boost.
It's just very hard with all this competition that's coming out. You got probably Durant coming back. The Cavs are going to be making some moves in this offseason. And the Chicago Bulls definitely going to be making some moves. And, when you get in the Western Conference, holy cow. I don't even know I don't know if they could even win a 4-game series or a 7-game series against a few of the teams in the West.
Maybe not. But you know what? It'll be it'll be interesting to see because it all depends on the factors we talked about. I think it's the right odds.
Small or big?
I would agree with those odds. I wouldn't put money down on them because they always say not to bet on your team because it does backfire. But I think those are the right odds for the Indiana Pacers. I think it's a respectful spot. But you know what that tells me? The word I just mentioned. They respect the Indiana Pacers with what they've done changing this team around. That's what that tells me, that they are expecting Paul George to come back healthy, and that core will be there. They're probably anticipating what we'll do in the draft, and then they're seeing, George Hill and Roy Hibbert will be back and healthy, and David West and the guys we brought in, Stuckey and Miles. I think they think this team that we're pretty complete, and they're respecting that. I like that. Here's what I'm a little shocked at. the Raptors and the Wizards drop below the Pacers at 40-1 odds. Both of those teams not only finished ahead of the Pacers, but were in the playoffs solidly. In the 4, 5, 6 seed area. That surprised me a little bit, Rhett. Does that surprise you?
Not really. You know, the Raptors they've started out the season like great the past few years. And then what do you know? They just keep dropping back. They're inconsistent, and really I don't think that they're going to make any big off-season moves this year. And for the Wizards, I mean, they're retaining Paul Pierce more than likely. And, you know, John Wall, if he stays healthy for the Wizards, and Bradley Beal the same, maybe they could, but I don't really see it. I don't think that they're that type of team. Now, they did make a great run in the playoffs, and Paul Pierce almost did it for him.
Sure did.
That was incredible, and I don't even like him. But
I don't either.
I don't expect them to be a championship team. That's for sure.
That's 2 years in a row the Wizards have proven themselves in the playoffs to improve. You're not surprised that they put them ahead of Indiana, or I'm sorry, behind Indiana in the odds?
No, I'm not surprised by that.
Well, that's great. You know what? I'll agree with you for the sake of Go Pacers, because that's our team. But
exactly.
I see what you're saying. I don't disagree with that. I think that they're looking at the Raptors and they're thinking, why should we have any faith in them?
Yeah.
Because they've been bounced in the first round each season and really showed no signs of true competing to advance. They're a great regular season team.
Yeah.
And even this past year, they were for the first half. Then they collapsed with a losing record. So that basically has been the Toronto Raptors. What about this one, though? This surprises me a little bit. I will mention this. What about the Milwaukee Bucks, who finished in the 6th seed, are at 100-1 odds, way behind the Pacers? Are you surprised about that?
Milwaukee Bucks, and what was their odds?
100-1. Basically giving them no respect, saying this past year was a fluke, is what that says.
That is insane. Wow, that's no respect right there. I think that I think that they have a higher chance of winning the championship over like the Wizards or the Raptors, especially the Raptors. You know, this young buck team.
That's right. They almost overcame the Bulls.
Yeah, and
they fought hard.
It's incredible. This young team that can come out there. I mean, they have some energy, that's for sure. And oh my gosh, I'm kind of speechless on that. 100-1.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Insane.
It really is. So let me ask you a couple more questions, then we'll just talk about some other things as surprise teams and all. I want to get your take on. Do you agree with the Cavaliers being the favorites at 3-1 to win the title?
Well, I think that they have. I'm not going to give a definite answer on this, but I think that they have a great chance.
So you agree with them being ahead of the Warriors, who just won the title, the Thunder, Bulls, Clippers, and Spurs, those teams out of the West?
I think that they have a great chance to win it.
I respect him holding his ground. Okay, I'm going to say that it depends on what happens with Kevin Love and this team that they can keep together. That's what it's going to depend on. And also with the Warriors, those teams in the West that are up there, what happens? Does Durant stay with Westbrook, and can he stay healthy? Do the Warriors core stay together? Because if they do, then I'm not going to agree with these odds. I'm going to switch it, and I'm going to put the Warriors at number 1 with winning the title, the best chance. And aside from that, I'd probably put the Cavs at 2, and then you put those numerous West teams behind them in the top 10. But that's the way I see it.
I would not put – I would put, in all honesty, I'd put the Indiana Pacers over the Warriors winning a championship again.
Whoa! That's a bold statement.
I don't think that. I think it's going to be it's going to be a tough one for them to win another one.
Wait, okay.
I don't think that their core group is going to be staying the same.
So wait, let's clarify. You're saying win a title again, or for this upcoming season?
This upcoming season.
Wow. That means that you completely disagree with the Warriors being at number 2 then.
Yes.
You'd have them being out of the top 10 to be behind Indiana.
And I think that I think there's quite a bit of people that could agree with that, but it's really hard to say in this situation because
that's a crazy statement, Rhett.
We're still in the off season, and I don't think that they're going to stay with I don't think that they're going to have the same core.
Okay, well that's going to be the key. I think that I would call you crazy if they keep that same core and you stood by that statement.
I would not stand by this statement if they stay with the same core, but from what I've been hearing, they're not going to be having the same core group. And if they don't, then I don't think that, hands down, I think the Indiana Pacers will give them a smackdown.
There you go. Hey, I love to hear that. All right, well, I want to talk about some surprise teams that we think will occur. This will be fun. I'm going to mention a few that I've read, and then I'll ask you, do you agree or disagree with these, and then we'll get into who do we believe will for sure be surprise teams that maybe aren't on this list. If some of them are, then we'll hear it. First team, the Sacramento Kings, Rhett. The Kings, let's put it this way. I feel awful for DeMarcus Cousins, and I would love if he was on the Indiana Pacers.
Oh,
this man is an absolute beast, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder. Let's just face it. He had career highs this past year in points, 24 points. Rebounds, he averaged almost 13 rebounds a game. Assists, the big man averaged almost 4 assists per game, and blocks averaged about 2 per game. Those are huge all-star numbers, Rhett. This team they have a young core, and Ben McLemore is going to be back. Rudy Gay is with them. He's a little older. Nick Stauskas. This team's getting better, but Rhett, I don't think that they will be a surprise team. I will disagree with this because of them being in the West. If they were in the East, I would agree with it. But unless they make another big move in the offseason, they just don't have enough weapons around DeMarcus Cousins. So I'll disagree with this one. What do you think?
I agree. I don't think they have enough weapons. I don't like Rudy Gay. I disrespect Rudy Gay. And to be all honest, but DeMarcus Cousins, boy, would I love to have him on the Indiana Pacers. That dude is an animal, and as you said, he does play with a chip on his shoulder, but he does not have enough resources around him to push this team in the Western Conference, because that is a tough conference.
It is, and the top free agents are out there, and I think what it'll take for the Kings, if they'll have a chance to be a surprise team, is they've got to trade Carl Landry.
Make a surprise move.
Yes, exactly. Basically, they have 3 players under pretty large contracts. That's Carl Landry, Derek Williams, and Jason Thompson. If they can get rid of those players for some of the big-name free agents that are out there, which I'll go through some of them real quick. How about the Hawks with Paul Millsap, John Jenkins, Damari Carroll, Elton Brand, Pero Antich, pretty good guys out there. How about Al Horford? Basically half their team. That's great. We've already talked about the LaMarcus Aldridge of the world, Kevin Love, Marc Gasol, Rhett. The players really go on and on. Brooke Lopez. There's a ton of great free agents out there. So if the Kings can maybe try and get some of those players, it might help. Let's talk about another team here. Agree or disagree? The Milwaukee Bucks. This young gun team really proved under Jason Kidd that they can compete. Rhett, I'm going to agree with this. I think that the Bucks will be a surprise team this next year. I see them making the playoffs again in the East. I'll pick them to even advance a round. I think they will be a surprise team. What do you think?
I think the same thing. They'll be a surprise team. As I said a little while ago, I thought it was preposterous that they were. Thought it was crazy that that 100-1 odds to win, and I agree. I think that they can advance at least one round, and that's a start for that Milwaukee Bucks team because they have been boo-boo in the past, and they are starting to turn things around.
I agree. I agree with that. I think they are. We're on the same page with the Bucks. How about this team? I'm going to just quickly say I disagree with it, though I think they will be getting better. The Philadelphia 76ers. This team, I think, when you talk about laughingstocks of the NBA and who will suck every year, that's the Philadelphia 76ers, it seems. This team consistently has lottery picks, and they consistently do not get better, it seems. It's like they're always in rebuilding mode, and they just cannot get big players there. Now, they have some upside, all right? Nerlens Noel, Tony Wroten showed flashes last year. Jason Richardson, they have. It's a cheap talent veteran, okay? If they can get a couple players, problem is they don't have enough money, a lot of money, but if they can get some players in the free agency, it'll help. Not to mention that they will have Joel Embiid for the first time, which might really help this team. But, Rhett, as far as a surprise team, I'm going to disagree with it. I think they'll improve, but I'm not going to call them a surprise team. They're not going to make the playoffs.
Well,
let's put it that way. What do you think?
And I'm going to shed some light on this for you, Kyle. Joel Embiid, he is more than likely not going to start the next season. He has not recovered as expected, and they're showing signs in his foot that it has not healed as expected, and they're talking about sitting him once again this season. So, tell you what, they didn't really have a chance anyway. Without him playing again, it's going to make the odds even worse. Tell you what, I can't stand the 76ers for one reason. They can't do anything.
They gave us Evan Turner.
that too. Good point, Kyle. But I can't stand how they traded Michael Carter Williams.
It was a terrible decision.
I think that was stupid. And I feel like they try to tank every year. And it drives me insane. Now I'm starting to think that they don't because they just flat out suck.
Because it doesn't work. So if they are, then
kudos for them.
They need some new management.
I know, and they're talking about getting AI in the front office, but I think that'd be kind of dumb.
I don't know about him in the front office. He did go on record saying he has an incredible basketball mind. I would not disagree with that.
I would not disagree with that either.
But I would not put him in the front office. That's a pretty big jump. I'd maybe put him as a coach.
Yeah,
I mean, assistant coach.
Start him out low.
Start him off with something like that, and I agree. I think AI would make a big difference. Not only that, but him being in that organization might draw players there alone.
Yeah,
the great Hall of Famer he was. So basically, I would agree with that. So you think it's a joke that this team would be a surprise team?
It's a joke.
Exactly. So we're on the same page with that team. Let me mention this team, and then we'll get to maybe some other ones you had on your list, and just a quick rundown, yes or no, with teams. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? The Minnesota Timberwolves are an interesting team. Unfortunately for them, they play in the West.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's another issue with them, which in my opinion, they shouldn't. This is where it goes back to previous shows that we've talked about the conference alignment. It just doesn't make sense for Minnesota to be playing in the West when they're not in the West. And that's for several teams. But I'm going to say no because of that. They're in the West, but they do have good young talent. Andrew Wiggins proved himself this last year. Zach LaVine, holy cow, is all I have to say about that guy.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
Adrian Payne, Shabazz Muhammad, Gorgie Jang, Anthony Bennett. The bust of the Cleveland Cavaliers picked at number 1, but did prove that he can play, but he's not a great player. Nikola Pekovic, this team, and not to mention their stud of a point guard, Ricky Rubio.
Yeah.
This team is on the ups, Rhett. They're on the rise. Is a better way to phrase it. But I will not put them as a surprise team because of them playing in the West. It's unfortunate for them. What do you think? about the Timberwolves?
Well, I think that they could make some noise with this. They have a great shot of getting Karl Anthony Towns, and they could have a team like the Young Bucks. As I'm saying, they have a nice little young team that can make a push.
The Young Wolves.
Yeah, and I think that if they make a couple moves in the offseason to pick up some decent players, I feel like they could be a solid team and maybe get that 8th spot.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree with it because I think that the West is too deep. I think if they were in the East, I would put them into the playoffs in the East. But in the West, I just don't see it. It's too deep. Rhett, I want to go through some of these other teams. But first, do you have any teams that you had down that haven't been mentioned that you think will be surprise teams?
Well, I think that you touched on all of them. The Bucks was my biggest one, and I think that the Timberwolves, as I said, the Lakers. Lakers are definitely not on that list, but I will have to say that the New York Knicks, I feel like that they might be able to make some moves, and I think that they'll be in the playoffs next year.
Oh, please. I don't agree with that.
I got a feeling.
And I hope not. But you know what? If they're in the playoffs and that means competing with the Indiana Pacers, great. We'll bring on the rivalry in the playoffs again. We'll take care of them again.
They have a couple verbal agreements, and if those come out to be true, then I think that they're going to be a pretty decent team coming out of the East. Okay. That's for sure.
Well, until I see what they may do, I will not put them as a surprise team yet, especially. I just don't see it happening. They were awful last year, and they've done nothing to prove that they will be any better. Quite frankly, nothing's been done.
I've never seen a team put bags over their heads at a game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where they've gone to. What do you think about the Boston Celtics as a team? Because they may be a surprise team in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they'd be a surprise team, especially since you've seen what they did last year, closer to the end of the season. They made a great push, and I'll tell you what, that team could be a team that you don't want to mess with. They played fantastic against the Indiana Pacers this year, and boy, that I wouldn't call them a surprise team, but I'd say that they're going to continue to get better. That's
a good way of putting it. I like how you worded that. All right, what do you think about a couple more here? What do you think about the Pistons?
Oh, goodness. No, they're not going to be a surprise team.
Put it plain and simple. That's what I like. I'll agree with that, though I do think that they are getting better, and Stan Van Gundy is a good coach. Until they make some moves, I just don't see them being a surprise team.
Yeah, especially if they get rid of Greggy.
Yeah, very true, which is one of those two big men will be going, I believe, for sure. What about the Pelicans? They showed their flashes. This Anthony Davis, this All-Star is something else.
Tell you what, I love
superstar.
Anthony.
I do too. Do you think they'll be a surprise team in the West?
I think that they're going to have to make some moves because there's so many good teams out there, and you're going to be coming back with a Westbrook and Durant more than likely. And I'll tell you what, I'd put them getting in over the Cavs, or not the Cavs, but the Pelicans any day. But they're going to have to make some moves, that's for sure, because you can't just play around Anthony Davis.
No, you can't. You need more. And if they get more, I will put them as a surprise team. They showed their fight this last year in the playoffs, so I would agree. I think if they get the right moves, I'd put them as a surprise team, no doubt about it. What do you think? We'll end last but not least on this team. We haven't mentioned them yet, but we hate this rival. The Miami Heat are at the same odds as the Pacers to win the title. What do you think about that, first of all? And second of all, do you think that they are going to be a surprise team?
Well, I think that they're going to be like a from in the range of 6th to 8th seed. But I would not call it a surprise team once again.
Do you think it's disrespectful that they were put right by the Indiana Pacers for odds?
I think it is. I think it is kind of disrespectful, especially let me take that back. It's all if Dwayne Wade comes back or not. I don't think that they'll be the team that they were if Dwayne Wade leaves. I would put them as an 8th seed if Dwayne Wade leaves. Chris Bosh, you'll have Dragic.
And they'll have some money if Dwayne Wade does leave.
And you got that crazy guy Hazen Whiteside.
Yeah, he is an improved player, and in the East it helps them. But I don't agree. I think it was disrespectful that they were that close to the Pacers in odds in light of what will probably happen with Dwayne Wade. Not to mention the fact that if they lose it, I mean the Miami Heat, after you look at what happened to them this year, I think that those are high odds. I certainly would not put them as a surprise team. They won't be a team that is going to make a run. If they happen to make the playoffs, I would have them bounce in the first round. No doubt about it. But hopefully by the Pacers. But yeah, I agree with that. I don't see it happening, and so I think that was a little disrespectful to have them that high. But we'll end that segment there. The NBA season fastly approaching. We'll get to keep talking about it as it gets closer on every show, which will be exciting. But, Rhett, this next segment is an exciting segment for me. As you know, I am a huge Chicago Blackhawks fan, and what did they do? Well, they happened to win their 3rd Stanley Cup in 6 years. That is right. They won the Stanley Cup in 6 games to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning to win their 3rd cup in 6 years. Unbelievable feat, Rhett. I couldn't be more proud of this Blackhawks team. As a Blackhawks fan, you got to get into hockey. It's going to happen. You've already said it. This next year, you're gonna read up, and you're gonna get acclimated with the sport, because you should, because it's an underappreciated sport. These guys are so talented, the way that they skate. They are as physical as all the professional sports comes. You don't go one period without seeing a fight, a check into the boards, or somebody taking off their skate and trying to stab someone, to pull a Happy Gilmore reference. But basically, what an incredible run by the Blackhawks. I mean, this team, if you want to talk about dynasties, the Chicago Blackhawks have to be mentioned as a dynasty, and not just NHL. You compare them to the greatest dynasties in other sports, because that is what they have become. And I'm going to talk about that here a little bit. Some other teams, because let's face it, all right, 2010, 2012, and now 2015, they get their Stanley Cup. Should have won it last year. The year before that, they were competing as well. Basically, every year since this core has been brought together with Jonathan Toews as the captain, the Chicago Blackhawks have competed for a championship. And that is impressive coming out of the Western Conference. And the Chicago Blackhawks, in my mind and in a lot of people's minds, are considered a dynasty. You have to put them with the other great dynasties in the past 60 years in hockey. The Montreal Canadiens twice, 76 through 79, that they had their stint of winning the Stanley Cup. And then a little bit earlier than that, 56 to 60, the Islanders, 80 to 83, the Oilers, 84, 85, 87, 88, and 90. The Chicago Blackhawks, 2010, 2013, and 2015. The Toronto Maple Leafs, 62 to 64 and 67. The Canadiens, again, 65, 66, 68, 69, and 71. Let's face it, they're probably the greatest dynasty in the history of hockey. Out of Canada, let me tell you what, that team, boy, did they know how to get it done in the past. The Detroit Red Wings, 97, 98, 2002. And and the Chicago Blackhawks, Red, they're in there as a dynasty. It's impressive to watch. I wanna mention some numbers from their Stanley Cup run because they are just incredible. When you talk about sports teams and being clutch, that's what they are. 2002, the last time a team won the Stanley Cup for the third time within the span of 6 years. I mentioned them earlier, the Detroit Red Wings in 97, 98, and 02. 45. That was the number of playoff games Corey Crawford, the Blackhawks goalie, has won. He's tied for the Blackhawks franchise record with Tony Esposito, the other greatest goalie in Blackhawks history. How about 114? That's how many points Patrick Kane has scored in his 116th career playoff games. He's 26 years old, and he's already tied for 64th place on the all-time leaderboard. This man is as clutch as they come in all of sports. 7. That's how many active Blackhawk players have been around for all three of the Stanley Cups. Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, Patrick Sharp, Marian Hossa, Patrick Kane, and Jonathan Toews. That core is as great of a core in any sports. There's no doubt about that. 11. That's the size of the club Joe Quenneville, their head coach, joined by winning his third Stanley Cup as a head coach. 3. That's the number of Conn Smythe Trophy winners that got a point on Chicago's Stanley Cup winning goal, which is MVP. Duncan Keith, 2015, Patrick Kane, 2013, Brad Richards, 2004. How about this right here? This is unbelievable. 33-0-0. That is Chicago's undefeated record, regular season and playoffs, when entering the third period with the lead. The Blackhawks were also 33-3 when leading after 20 minutes. Can you say clutch and dominant? How about 4? That's where Duncan Keith's 2015 playoff run ranked when it came to total ice time recorded during a single postseason since 1998. He logged 715 minutes, which put him behind Nicholas Lidstrom in 2002, Chris Pronger in 2006, and Drew Doughty in 2014. That is unbelievable. That amount of time on the ice blows out the amount of, let's say, time that LeBron James played for this Cleveland Cavaliers team in the playoffs. That is unbelievably impressive. How about 1,213? That's the number of games, regular season and playoffs, that Kimmo Timonen participated in his NHL career. And 14, the number of Stanley Cup championships Scotty Bowman has won. Absolutely impressive. And here's a little bit more by the numbers that I got to mention. And then I'll let you chime in a little bit, Red, just on your little bit of knowledge of the NHL and what you think about their impressive run here. How about this? Chicago's record in the playoffs when Patrick Kane scored at least one goal in a game of these playoffs, 8-2. Chicago's record when Jonathan Toews, the captain, scored at least one goal in the playoffs, 7-1. Chicago's record when Brad Richards scored at least one goal in a game of these playoffs, 0-3. It's all about the defensemen playing defense. As you likely could have guessed, Kane led the Hawks in goals during the playoffs with 11 and points with 23. Toews and Duncan were the other Hawks above 20 points for the playoffs, 21 apiece. 23 players suited up for Chicago in these playoffs. The only ones not to record a point were Kimmo Timonen, Kyle Kamewski, David Rundblad, Joakim Nordstrom, and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. The Hawks scored 4 goals in a game 7 times in these playoffs, recording 6 wins. The only loss was Game 5 against Anaheim. The Hawks scored 5 goals in a game 3 times in these playoffs, and they won every time. All 3 games were against Anaheim, and Brandon Saad scored once in all 3 games. The goal breakdown by the series. They had 19 goals in 6 games against Nashville. They had 13 goals in 4 games against Minnesota. They had 24 goals in 7 games against Anaheim, and they had 13 goals in 6 games against Tampa Bay. The Chicago Blackhawks were not shut out in these playoffs and posted 2 shutouts against Minnesota in Game 3 of the Western Conference semifinals and against Tampa Bay in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup to win it. 15 of the Hawks' 23 playoff games were decided by one goal. Chicago won 11 of those one-goal games. And at least one Chicago defenseman scored a goal in 10 games this postseason. The Hawks won 8 of those games. Corey Crawford had no goals in these playoffs because he's the goalie. That makes sense. But that's impressive when you look at him, when you go down the line to how clutch he was. That's the Chicago Blackhawks. It really is. The series that they posted, the run that they had. How about Game 7 on the road in the conference finals to win in clutch fashion? They were never phased. They were as courageous of a team as they come. They were as poised as a team as they come. They never gave up. Never gave up. They always gave 100%, and that is what they will be remembered for in this playoff run. Rhett, before we get to that last segment, what did you think about the Chicago Blackhawks winning 3 cups in 6 years?
Well, I thought that's pretty impressive. Now, I don't know much about the NHL world, but I do know championships.
That's right.
And 3 in 6 years, heck, as a team, that's better than LeBron's.
That's right.
In NBA. So, I watched the final game of the Stanley Cup, and Kyle was helping me with that. He was being a trooper, telling me how it was, so I would understand it. And you know what? It was a fun game to watch, and it took me a little bit, but I started understanding it, and I think that I'm going to be in it next year. And
the Blackhawks are going to be your favorite team.
We'll see. I don't know if I can jump on the bandwagon for that, but
Whoa.
But not calling you a bandwagon fan, Kyle, but
No.
I don't know if I just couldn't be one of those people to just wear a Blackhawks t-shirt. I might not be able to be a fan for a few years until I understand everything about it.
Hey, I respect that. That's how it was for me. I became a true Blackhawks fan in 2009, but that's when I was fully ready and understood hockey. It took me a couple years, too, to get into it, to know the rules and everything, and once I did, never disappointed. And I'm still waiting to go to my first Blackhawks game, and it's going to happen this next year. And Red, I look forward to hopefully going with you as you get into the NHL. But impressive nonetheless. Dynasty, absolutely. I would call it a dynasty. When you can get 3 in 6 years, that's a lot of people's cutoffs. And you look at the other great dynasties in all the sports, all of them that you call dynasties have at least 3 championships in 6 years. That's impressive, none the least. So, Chicago Blackhawks, 2015 Stanley Cup champions. Let's do it again next year. Rhett, let's get into this last segment here quickly as we are running out of time, but let's go through what we think will be the top 10 picks, and we should be able to do this fairly quickly. I'll start with you since I took the ice on the last segment. Why don't you tell me your top 10?
All right. Well, I'm just going to read them off. I'm going to start with
in the 2015 NBA draft.
Oh, I guess
the Minnesota Timberwolves select
Karl Anthony Towns.
Boo.
Number 2.
The Los Angeles Lakers select
Jahlil Okafor. I can't say his name. Jahlil Okafor.
Okay.
And then 3, oh boy. This one's going to be a tough one to pronounce.
The Philadelphia 76ers with another top 5 pick select.
Oh boy, this is going to be butchered. Kristaps Porzingis.
Humana, what?
Oh
nice.
Boy.
It's a nice try, all right? He's from Croatia. I understand. Actually, no, he's from Latvia. I understand. It's a little difficult to pronounce. Okay.
A little, and I already have trouble pronouncing.
The New York Knicks at number 4 select
D'Angelo Russell.
That would be a solid pickup for them. I hope not. The Orlando Magic at number 5 select
Willie Cauley-Stein.
Whoa. Bold. Going a little off the radar there, a little off of a lot of people's projected draft boards. Okay.
Thank you.
The Sacramento Kings at number 6 select
Mario Hezonja.
He's from Croatia, I understand.
Thank you.
Mario Hezonja.
No, I'm going to take a little break from this and say I don't think that I could ever be the person that does the starting lineups at
the
basketball
PA announcer?
games. Or I couldn't do that. Boy, would that be bad. Everybody
You'd have
hate
to
me.
make light. You'd have to make joke out of it.
Uh,
That would be funny. All right, at number 7, let's continue. The Denver Nuggets select.
Emmanuel Mundi.
Wow. Number 8, the Detroit Pistons select.
Kelly Oubre.
Whoa. Okay.
Going pretty bold here, buddy.
Going high on that one. You are. Number 9, the Charlotte Hornets select.
Trey Lyles.
Oh, my. Aren't you just way off the radar here, Rhett? I don't know. Okay. All right. Number 10, the Miami Heat select.
Stanley Johnson.
I'll deal with it. I don't think it'll pan out. Good player in college. I don't see how it happens. I hope not, though. I don't want to see the Heat get anyone that was real good in college. Can't stand them. All right, Rhett. Not exactly what I had.
Hey, I was throwing it up. I was mixing up a little, giving a little light.
You were, and I can respect it for sure. Disagree with it a little bit, but that's okay. It would be an interesting top 10. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't go wrong with those picks, but I'm sure some of those teams are like, I want it switched. This is the player we have on our draft board, but hey, that's what's fun about being able to predict it. All right, Rhett, now I need you to give me the top 10, the 2015 NBA draft. Start it off.
All right. The number 1 pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves pick. Wow, I butchered that. All right, let's back that up.
How about start within the 2015 NBA draft? There you go.
The 2015 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves pick.
Jahlil Okafor, center, Duke.
Wow.
That's who I think.
Wow.
1 or 2
All
could
right.
really be switched around, but I think
could.
the big
It
man
could.
goes.
It could. Number 2 pick, Los Angeles Lakers. Select.
D'Angelo Russell.
Wow.
From Ohio State.
Holy moly.
Because they need a guard, not a center.
I like that. I like that, Kyle. Bold.
Okay.
And crazy.
Thank you.
The Philadelphia 76ers select.
I'm going to say Karl Anthony Towns, center, Kentucky.
I can respect it.
We mentioned Joel Embiid this next year out of problems. Nerlens Noel showed that he can play, but you know what? He also could use some help at that center position because he's more like a power forward, quite frankly, with as skinny as he is. And they could use another big man to help, and certainly Karl Anthony Towns would do that. That's mine. It's my third one.
Number 4th pick, New York Knicks select.
Justice Winslow, guard forward, Duke.
Wow. All right. Number 5 pick, Orlando Magic select.
Trey Lyles.
Wow.
Power forward, Kentucky.
Wow. I like how we have it switched. Same team, but just switch players.
That's right.
Number 6 pick, Sacramento Kings select.
Mario Hezonja. Shooting guard, small forward, Croatia.
There you go. Number 7th pick, Denver Nuggets select.
Emmanuel Mudiay. Point guard, Congo. Let me say this. I don't think that Ty Lawson will be back in a Denver Nuggets uniform, so I think that they need some help.
Hallelujah.
The point guard.
Exactly. Number 8th pick, Detroit Pistons select.
Cameron Payne, point guard, Murray State Racers.
Okay. Number 9, Charlotte Hornets select.
Stanley Johnson, small forward, Arizona Wildcats.
Real. Number 10th pick, the Miami Heat. Boo. Select.
Willie Cauley-Stein.
Now, just
center, Kentucky. And
Now,
I'm going to
just
preface it like this. I don't want the Indiana Pacers to take him.
No kidding.
So take him, Miami Heat, in light of what's happened with you. But that's really a hopeful pick. I don't think they need a center.
For poos and giggles, the Indiana Pacers select.
Okay, well, I have to start with you. We can't get out of order here if we're doing that. With the 11th pick in the 2015 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select
Lance Stevenson.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Frank Kaminsky.
Amen, brother. Amen. I agree. So ask me. You're going to get the same answer?
The Indiana Pacers select
Frank the Tank Kaminsky, center,
go.
Wisconsin Badgers.
Same
And the
page.
Indiana Pacers win the 2016 NBA championship. Hallelujah.
There you go. Good
Well,
stuff.
there's our top 10, folks, and we threw in 11 because we're big Pacers fans. And
Exactly.
certainly we're going to be talking about that more on our Pacers show here in a couple days. Rhett, just like that, a little bit over, but pretty close. The closest to our hour that we've been. When you're talking sports, it goes by quick.
Exactly. And, hey, we love talking sports. And
We do.
That's our thing.
It is. It is our thing. It's going to continue to be our thing. But as far as this week goes, we're all done. To recap what was talked about on the show, we discussed the 115th U.S. Open Championship. We previewed next season in the NBA. We talked about the Chicago Blackhawks and the top 10 NBA draft predictions. That is all that we have for today. Thank you for tuning into our show. Feel free to leave feedback as we want to be able to address comments and questions on the show. Tweet and retweet the show at Kyle M. Newman, at Rhett Hensley, and at Indiana Pacers Talk. We will be back at it next Monday by 8 Eastern Time. I'm Kyle Newman.
And I'm Rhett Hensley.
Have a good rest of the day, and go sports.
And go sports.